Detective Comics 1066, Ram V writing and Ivan Reis on the art. So continuing this, this family, the werewolf,
yes,
all this stuff, continuing on in the book, which, I quite like this issue. So this is obviously Ram V writing. We have a different artist on this issue. Ivan Reis is on this one.
yes, very very familiar to me. So as soon as I opened the book, I was like, wow, this art very is, people say it looks house style, but I feel like the DC house style has been adapted from Reese. So
I think, I don't know if it's the inks, but I think this is a lot less clean than I usually find Reese works. It's a lot heavier on shadows.
Mm-hmm. And that might have been a creative choice though too, right?
Yeah, maybe it's also slightly because I've read this after Action Comics, but it's very Perkins-esque on the inks, I think, in this issue.
I wonder if it's just trying to keep in style with the previous artist or something. Like it's just trying to keep a consistent tone.
I'm just saying that I feel like the one thing that's been missing from Batman books is a werewolf. So the fact that we got this guy, I'm very, very happy. I mean, granted, Ben Percy could have put a werewolf in Batman had he written him.
Oh, he 100% would have done.
Right, or Nightwing had he got to finish that run. But yeah, this stuff is Ram V. I like him playing with Gotham this way because not a lot happens, but there's a lot of intricate. I can't ever say this word. Like little tiny stuff that's happening to move the story forward. Yeah, what he said.
Yeah, so the last issue ended with Batman on Gordon's couch in the dark, being bandaged up and whatnot, and he wakes up here 3 days later, and Gordon's kind of explaining where he is, what's going on, and as we're seeing this, we also see that the family, the Arzen family, are demolishing Arkham. They're actually tearing down the building, presumably to rebuild a new version of it.
Yes,
for the sounds of it.
You would think, but and also I feel like this is them finally, getting to change Gotham.
It's the start of them trying to change Gotham.
Yeah.
It's there's there's a lot of very ominous lines from him, especially when the young one meets Bruce and talks about how you have to. Well, it's the woman who said it to him actually, but she says, you have to understand how something's built to tear it down, and how the Waynes are part of the problem of Gotham. They're a part of the failure of Gotham.
So I'm remembering from a solicit talking about a familial relationship to the Orgums. So I'm wondering if there's some deep down that the Waynes are tied to them.
I can definitely see that being possible, given that they've got these deeds from however long ago, like early Gotham days, by the sounds of it. Back
they're
when it was early families.
Yeah, like the Waynes maybe married into them at one point down the line, and so this is a distant cousin, coming to stake claim, which is, again, that's a very Gothic trope too, right? I mean, I'm only into Connor. Connor's much more the literary.
Oh yeah, it's usually with the inheritance.
Yeah. So
hey, this person died. I don't really know them, but there's just enough of a connection that it's plausible.
Yeah. So I feel like that's what it's kind of leaning into with the the lady with the multiple pupils. Saying that about the Waynes, which I'm still waiting for someone to address this in story. Like, if you look at a lady and she has multiple pupils in her eyes, I'm waiting for someone to react, and no one has.
Yeah, even in Gotham, that's weird.
Yeah, so I also like that because it keeps the story on edge a little bit, at least for me.
Well, she's bewitching people, right? No one can remember. No one can remember they're seeing it. It's like looking into the headlights. She just kind of.
It's creating this eeriness to her. And not just the fact she's speaking in vagaries. So
yeah, I do love that Batman's out the scene when he's leaving Gordon's place. Yeah, Gordon's explaining, preparing a drink, and
back to normal.
Yeah, but he's glad Gordon's back. So they do address that he was gone for a while, and this is kind of his return. Obviously we're building up some big things here. I think the most interesting thing about this issue, and I really this may be my favorite issue of Ram V's run so far on Detective, because I love the world building that's going on. It really feels like a lot of the pieces are starting to fall in place, and all the stuff with Harvey I think is super interesting. This idea that I said it was this great tragedy last issue, the idea that he may be forced to become Two-Face again, but it's even more tragic this issue where he's actually just pretending he's Two-Face again, but it's still really Harvey who's doing the horrible things.
I do enjoy having the Two-Face narration, though.
Oh, yeah. Like, Two-Face is still in there taunting him. But this idea that he's, like, keeping up this appearance that he is this awful, version of himself, this Two-Face side. And he's actually refusing to give up who Batman is to Two-Face. It's like you've somehow made this more tragic, but also made me like respect Harvey as a character and like his integrity even more than I did before. Like like this is the ultimate having your cake and eating it too, in like every way possible as far as the drama of the story goes. So you have this really kind of strong internal like strength and struggle going on with Harvey that I think is a really good heart to the story right now. And obviously it ties into the family because the big dude's like having him like, prep all of their operations. They're taking over the power plants and they're taking over factories. Although notably there's one area in the subway that they can't take over, and the big guy says, I'll go and check it out myself. So and then the big guy of course is the werewolf. At least he's the werewolf we know about. Like there could be
multiples.
There's always room for more werewolves.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and then of course we do have the scene where Bruce runs into the young prince, Arzen Orgum. Yeah, I said the Arzens earlier. Arzen's his first name.
Yeah.
Orgum's is the family.
That's right. Yeah, I course corrected with calling them the Orgums.
Yeah. So, I mean, as much as I forget the name every time I go to read an issue, it's to the story's credit that I never forget what they're doing or why they're there.
No.
It's just
you might
names I
blank the
forget.
name, but once it comes up, you know exactly who it is.
Yeah.
That's how I felt watching Game of Thrones back when watching that. Was I couldn't remember the names, but I knew what they were doing. And then eventually, you're around these characters enough. So, but yeah, I want to. Is it Gale? Is he the?
Yeah,
he's a big guy.
Yeah, he's the werewolf. Yeah. I want more about him.
Yeah,
not just because I like werewolves, but he seems very familiar with Ra's al Ghul and and that stuff. So I wonder if there's a tie there too.
Yeah, in general, they all seem to be familiar. I mean, that's why the League of Assassins were going after them. They tried to kill them in their arrival because they see them as a big bad deal.
Pete, you mentioned this was your favorite issue. Mine was the one with the story, of the stuff in the past, in the desert. That stuff was great.
With the demon that got placed in that.
Yeah. So the investigation sort of continues where the assassins dude, I always forget his name, but the one who was fighting Batman last couple issues, he turns up dead. Someone killed him, and Gordon's there you go. Gordon's figured out that whoever it is has been hiding around in an old power plant, so Batman's checking out this place, which just happens to be also where Gale is looking for like what's causing trouble with the guys that have been sent in from Two-Face. And Gordon also acknowledges, and Batman is aware that someone is sending people down here. They don't know if it's we know it's Two-Face's men, but it could be the Maroni's men, it could be whoever's men. They know there's something going on. But we get this great reveal where Batman just says it's cold, and then the next page is Mr. Freeze talking to Gale. And that's where the men went, is that Mr. Freeze is down here, and obviously he's not easily taken out. But a great 2-page spread with Batman kind of joining this fight just after Gale's turned into the werewolf, with all the sort of the snow and the frost around them. Really enjoyed the action of these couple of pages. And then the cliffhanger is Freeze sets off a freeze bomb, so Batman is frozen, and that's the to be continued at the end.
It's a pretty traditional cliffhanger for this run. Has been doing some different stylistic things so far, but this is a pretty traditional, like, hey look, he's frozen.
Yeah, I think I like the issue because it has I really like what they're doing with Harvey, because I really like the Harvey stuff last issue as well. And it's really giving me that sense of tragedy with the character, but I also like the general sense of world building. It feels like Gordon's a proper supporting character in this story again. As well, obviously, as Harvey, but then you've also got this group of villains who have different elements to them. You've got the big guy who's a werewolf, you've got the actual ancestry of them, and like how they basically became the Arkhams, or at least one branch of them became the Arkhams, and you got all this stuff at play. So it still kind of very much feels like we're like Gotham's a character in the sense that it's all about taking over the city and about the grasp of control. And I think early on you like it's not actually a news report. It's just Gordon telling Batman, I think. But like you get that feeling of like this could be Deb Donovan still like typing up what's happening.
Yeah.
Mm.
Sure. Also, I like that Batman seems familiar with Gael because he calls him the Wolf of Bazad Jahan. I can't even.
Nice
Bazad Jahan. And so so just again with the world building there is this is a new character, but Batman is familiar, you know, with stories at least of that. So, and the demon, I couldn't remember the name. I had to go back and look, but it was the Asmer. So I'm sure this is gonna play in, you know, also to the soul of Gotham.
Oh yeah, that's the other part of the Harvey thing I really like. Is the idea that he's got this demon thing inside him that the family's put in, that he can't say out loud what he's actually thinking or feeling because they'll hear it. So this internal struggle with the Two-Face side of him is the only true privacy he has to actually like sort of say what he's really feeling and say what he's really thinking. And even then, he's not really saying it. We're just getting it because of how he's resisting Two-Face's voice.
It's really effective doing that stuff with Two-Face in particular, because obviously most characters in comics can have an internal monologue, and we could get that point across by having their inner thoughts quite easily with anyone. But doing it with Two-Face, with the duality of it, it just gives it an extra dimension to normal.
He's got someone to argue with, effectively, which is a really interesting way of having that inner fight kind of come out. And so it's really tragic again that, you know, people expect Two-Face to be evil again. People expect him to go down the deep end and be this mob boss and be the worst part of himself. And he's actually successfully avoiding it, but by all intents and purposes, the world's going to see him as being a criminal again and seeing him being the awful person again. And I quite like the art, you know, in these pages where like the Two-Face side of his face is all in shadow. It's nothing that original, but you know, it's all in shadow until he steps out into the light and you see his face again. It's after he shoots the guy and the smoke from the guns going up. You know, so it's a nice big dramatic few pages of that scene.
Yeah, it's definitely making Harvey more relevant than Two-Face again. You know, for the longest time, it's always been Two-Face in the driver's seat, but here it's actively Harvey. I like that it seems like the Batman editorial team are taking some of these, you know, rogues in allowing writers to tell these big grand stories. Because like we had that with Poison Ivy last year, or even in towards this year, and now I feel like Two-Face is up to the plate, and Ramvy's doing his really cool inner dialogue stuff like he did in Swamp Thing. So
and I enjoy different takes on Two-Face. You know, I like the pure evil one that we got in The One Bad Day, but the best version of Two-Face is always going to be the one where there's the good person in there fighting for control. It's always, and it's so unique to I mean, it's not unique in a general media sense because it's very Jekyll and Hyde, but in terms of Batman's rogues gallery, it's very unique to Two-Face, and they should play to that because that's what makes him Two-Face, what makes him him.
Yeah, well, that's what makes the coin flip work.
Yeah.
Right,
that's what makes this so interesting as well, right? That it's Harvey trying not to be the good person, essentially.
Right.
Like he's trying to be bad.
And it's not just he's trying to be bad. I feel like he's playing. There's a reason.
Yeah, he's not just trying to be. He's not really trying to be bad. He's pretending to be bad because of the thing that's inside him, controlling him.
Because the Asmer.
Yeah, he has to keep up appearances for that, but he's actually trying to withhold what he can so that he's not making things as even worse than he's forced to.
It is, but having the good side be doing the bad things intentionally, you know, and for reasons. But I think it's an extra level that we don't normally have.
Well, that's what I mean. The Two-Face narration even says that was you that just killed him. Like you did that, not me. And that's got a lot of weight to it. It's quite, you know, it's a very interesting element. Did anyone read the backup?
Yeah, no, I did.
Yeah, thoughts, feelings?
Did you?
I did not know.
I'm waiting for Connor.
No, I didn't read it. Sorry.
Okay, there it is. Yeah, so it gets more into that part of Two-Face where who's actually in control. And earlier in their book, earlier in the first part of the book, they talk about Dr. Mead and how he bungled something. And this goes into that. And while he has this Dr. Mead, who's a psychiatrist, someone comes in and attacks, and you know Harvey's. It's all Two-Face's narration, you know, doing that thing from earlier in the book where he's, you know, kind of goading him and being like, "This ain't you. When are you gonna let me out to play? You know, I this is what I normally do." Someone comes in and attacks, and I'm pretty sure it's the kid from the first set of backups, who pins Two-Face down and like brings this thing out of him. And he says, "I see you," and it looks like he's talking to Two-Face, not Harvey, and then peels a scab off of Two-Face's face and eats it. And then we get into, you know, these inner workings of Two-Face. And let me see, who's the artist on this one? On the backup, I can't find it. But the art goes from just like typical comic book type stuff to like these big full pages of like, we see a split page of, you know, it's Harvey on one side, and it's all very like mechanical in like the facial structure. And then on the other side, it's all burned away. It looks like Two-Face, but there's like, I think it's supposed to be the asthma that's in there. It's the, you know, it's representative of these birds. And it's all like, again, it looks very zombie-like, but there's the representation of what Two-Face is this little like disfigured person that is going through and is talking to this person that just ate the scab off of him. And it goes back to this childhood incident that, you know, was maybe the first trauma that led to the Two-Face persona, where I guess Harvey came from a real hard upbringing. His dad, you know, put hands on him and his mom. And so he would escape by going to the movies, and he went to go see Charlton Heston in The Savage, which I'm not familiar with this movie. Pete, are you?
I've heard of it, never seen it.
Okay. Connor, have you?
What was the movie called?
The Savage, Charlton Heston.
No, I've never seen it.
Okay. Apparently, it did a number on him, and he left because he couldn't take what was going on in the movie. And these kids hold him down and cut his face. And they start calling him a crybaby. So he grabs a brick and, you know, decides he's gonna fix things. And this is the first like occurrence of Two-Face. At the end of this, Two-Face wakes up, or Harvey wakes up is woken up by Two-Face. And he's like, "Hey, we got to talk. There's stuff going on here. Mead got away." And that Two-Face, the little representation of him inside, is in the Harvey side now, holding a brick, basically meaning like he's gonna get control sooner or later. And yeah, it was the artist was Hayden Sherman, so a lot of fun stuff going on in here, because as we get deeper into Two-Face and Harvey, the more like the story's told in like these framings as it goes down his body. So it starts at the head, and then as it goes down, you see like the trauma happening is like in his heart region and his chest, and you know, when he decides to hit the kids with the brick, it's down in his gut. So a lot of cool multi-level storytelling going on. But yeah, it really, this backup, like kind of like the last ones, which then I feel like I have to go back and read the Gordon ones that I skipped out on, are really informing what's going on in the main story, which is cool because it's not like, usually when stuff like that happens, it's because the same writer is doing them and they just feel like an addendum. But this is Cy Spurrier, I think. Hold on, let me double check.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's Cy Spurrier, who I guess just has a really good communication with Rambi, because again, this reinforced the Two-Face stuff that happened in the main title. So, but yeah, definitely recommend it if you guys have time to go back and read it. It's a real fun Two-Face story.
Yeah. All right, what are we all rating Detective Comics then, Connor?
I think it's a straight 8 from me.
Matt?
8.5.
Yeah, I'm with Matt. I think an 8.5.